Hey, what is up, fellow Age Groupies? Welcome to another episode of the Age Groupies Podcast. I'm Mike Ergo, and along with my awesome co-host, Lindsay Hiken, we're here to talk to you about all things related to endurance sports from an amateur athlete perspective. We talk about how to have fun along the way and stop taking ourselves so seriously all the time. Y'all can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. And if you have any questions, comments, or ideas for our show that you want to hear about, please email us at agegroupies@gmail.com. And if you enjoy the show, I'm asking you all, please take a couple minutes, not even a couple minutes, maybe 30 seconds. Can you spare 30 seconds? I know I hate people who ask me that question, or I hate when people ask me that question, but I'm asking you now. If you enjoy the show, leave us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. We're on YouTube, guys. Check it out. Today's episode is one where Lindsay and I discuss the growth that comes from discomfort in a lot of ways, and conversations we have with people who are different from us. In the pool, on the bike, on the trails, how growth and discomfort are intertwined and linked. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get to the show. Lindsay, what is up? How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Better than last week. Not that anything has really changed that much from last week, actually, but there's some hope. And also I just, I don't know. I've done some meditation, just what I needed to do, some self-care. I'm a little bit, this morning's a little difficult because I haven't been running because I've been having knee problems again, which is, based on me not doing the strength stuff I need to do my knee, runner's knee. But I thought, I'll just go meet up with some people from my team. They were doing just a little short thing on Tuesday night, and I just wanted to see them. And I'm like, so I'll just walk, which I did. It was like 3 miles of like jogging and walking. And now my knees hurt and my lower back hurts. I'm like, geez, Louis, 3 miles. Like, I'm like, did I do that IRONMAN? Because I feel like you know what I mean?
I know that sentiment. That's how I felt last weekend when I went and jogged a mile. And I was exhausted, I think, from all just paying attention to the consciousness of the country and all the events. I've needed a lot of extra sleep, and I've been doing a lot less working out, a lot more sleeping.
Yeah. I think that's probably true. I do feel exhausted, and I haven't been sleeping that well. I've been getting as much as I need and waking up in the middle of the night. So that probably contributes. When I get stressed out, I do feel it in my lower back too. So it could just be that, I've got that stress from kind of everything that's going on, and then the run kind of kicked it off. Because my knees are sore, but they're not, that wouldn't really be a big deal. But my lower back is now hurting, which makes it hard. But that said, it doesn't really hurt like on the bike. I did hill repeats last night, and I was fine on the bike. And last Friday, before I did this little jog, I did a 72-mile ride up in the North Bay.
I saw that. That looked like a fun one.
Have you done that route?
Hit up near Tamales? Mm-hmm. No, I haven't done that.
Yeah. We went through Point Reyes Station. We rode from like Summerfell up by around the reservoir, and there's a climb there called Marshall Wall. You should check. You could probably get the route from my Strava.
Oh yeah, it's right there. It's a beautiful area. I've driven it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good route because it's got some good climbing. It was about 72 and a half miles, 4,500 feet of climbing. But headwind for about 2/3 of the way.
I saw that in your post.
We're like, how did we come around the top of the loop and still have a headwind? Like, we're like literally facing the other direction. But it's because you come up and then you drop down on one. Anyway, it was beautiful, but big headwind. So what's working for me right now is cycling, running not so much. I do need to get my crap together and do my strength workouts, and I'm acknowledging that. But until I do, I'm going to let the run go and just focus on, because my riding's going really well right now and I'm enjoying it. And it looks like swim's going to be coming back, because swimming pools are kind of opening. I mean, one person at a time, and you've got to book it way out in advance, but I'll be able, yeah. Oh my gosh. Ours opened today, our team pool. Yay. But of course it's like booked up immediately. Like people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I remember back in the day waiting in line for like Ticketmaster to get concert tickets, you know what I mean? Back before the internet, it's like you go and there's this massive line, you're just like waiting, or even now, like waiting online to like, get Hamilton tickets. It's the same thing. It was like people were just like, as soon as
it is 10 a.m. click.
As soon as that thing opened up, it was like, people just like went crazy. But I'm excited to get back in the pool. So how are you doing?
I have had a lot of discomfort, I think a lot of growth, and that's what we wanted to talk about today. The growth that comes from discomfort, whether that be through athletic training, through intellect and discussion and learning, and just what happens when we put ourselves beyond what we're used to and into unfamiliar territory, and the results. But I've been watching a lot of documentaries and movies, reading a lot of books, trying to understand as best as I can from an outside perspective what it's like not to be white in the United States of America and the history of that.
Yeah, that really is probably one of the fundamental challenges with this issue, is that if you are white, even if you are an empathetic, compassionate, caring individual, it's virtually impossible for you to understand what it's like to not be white. And it's through no fault of your own, but it's like, you're not, you know what I mean? Like, that's just a fact, right? White guy in America. I mean, you can close your eyes to that fact and go about your business, which is what a lot of people do. And that's why I think the problem continues to exist. You can do what you're doing, which is educate yourself and try, to get yourself at least as close as possible to that understanding. But like you said, there's like discomfort there and there's work there. And for a lot of people, it's just too much work. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's
too much work. Mm-hmm. It's too much work, and there's something about our defensive mechanisms that pop up when things are uncomfortable or don't feel familiar. It's like, I'm not used to this. I don't like it. And it hits the part of our brain, our limbic system, before we have a conscious thought. And so it takes some slowing down. It takes some intention to say, I'm going to allow some discomfort to be here. Like in a very similar way, and maybe the same way as like when you have a tough swim interval or a bike sprint that you're going to do, and it's going to really tax your body and feel very uncomfortable. Yeah. But you have to decide beforehand. Right.
Because I think, one of the things at the end of the day, we're animals, right? And discomfort from just a base perspective is like an indication that something, there's danger, or we need to be on alert, or, you know what I mean? And
it's very primal.
Right. And so, but the way that humans have developed and all of the tools that we've created in the society that we've made makes it so that a lot of our discomfort at this point isn't really indicating an actual threat to our well-being. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get
a few situations where a bear is chasing us down.
Right. Exactly. Like, or, our shelter is not going to be actually taken away, or we're not, we're going to be able to still feed ourselves. Right. But we have these instincts. And, so that practice of facing discomfort is really good for us, because it allows us to grow that muscle that would be able to parse out like, oh, a bear's chasing me, time to get the F out of here or play dead or whatever we're going to do, versus, it makes me uncomfortable to have a conversation about race, or I'm uncomfortable on this this ride because I'm pushing myself. I mean, if you don't practice that, then there's just this knee-jerk reaction of like to move away from discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
All
And
discomfort. Yeah.
So if we base it, we take that as a given that there's a knee-jerk reaction. I think that we can look at our knee-jerk reaction and say, okay, it's gonna be there. So I don't judge people when they have that knee-jerk reaction, but then say, okay, given that you're probably gonna have it because it hits a part of your brain that's not your intellectual, logical thinking brain, what do you do after? What do? You have that knee-jerk reaction, like when you get in a cold pool. It's like, okay, I'm going to stay here.
Right. And I think that for a lot of African Americans is really the point of frustration is we understand there. I mean, there's so much history in this country. There has been such a movement over time, so many stereotypes and propaganda put out there that, we are innately, dangerous and violent and lazy and whatever, all the stuff. Right. So when someone has that knee-jerk reaction, it's like, okay, I mean, I get it. You're sort of brainwashed to the fact that, and you can't see me for me. But the part I think that is so frustrating is all the afterword, like you're talking about. There's so many people who have the knee-jerk reaction. And then instead of doing what you're doing and acknowledging like, maybe my knee-jerk reaction isn't really appropriate or necessary, they kind of double down on it. You know what I mean? And that's where the frustration, I think, it's like at this point, we have a lot of data about institutional racism. Institutions aren't knee-jerk reactions. They are systematic implementation of laws and policy so you had a lot of time to think about that before you put that in place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's where it's like, you're not just afraid of this one black guy walking down the street. You are trying to skew things in favor of one particular race group. And that's, I think, what we're seeing now is people are saying, no, it's not just that person that has that innate fear, which is frustrating. I mean, I'll admit, I've been frustrated when I've seen people who have crossed the street from me in fear. And I'm like, really? Me? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, wow. If I'm scaring you, I don't know how you are in the world. You know what I mean?
They're afraid of a good hug.
It's like, don't go. Yeah. You better not travel anywhere because you're going to be real, But, there's that, but now we're having the conversation of all the other stuff that comes from like just this systematic implementation of policy. And it's good because we're seeing, I mean, I don't know how much is going to come out of it, but we are seeing people put in thought, like you're saying, after the fact, like, okay, well, that was my initial reaction, but let me think about this and maybe put some policy in place that will help mitigate some of that knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. So I will never pretend to understand what it's like to be black in America. The closest analogy I can draw is my own experience as a veteran and the preconceived notions people have as someone who came back from war. And there's a few stereotypes out there of, the veteran as the cold-blooded killer, the ticking time bomb who's going to snap, or the hero, or the person who's completely broken and can't do anything. None of those stereotypes are helpful. But I mean, even from my own family members, I remember getting home and having, I have loved cats even before I loved dogs, so I'm a big animal person. And I was going to sleep. I was living with my parents, going to sleep, and my mom was worried that because the cat was in my room, she said, "Well, what if you wake up in the middle of the night and think that's the enemy and kill the cat?"
You're like, actually, I'm suffering from PTSD. I need the unconditional love of this cat, but thanks.
Yeah, or just when people hear that I've been to war and my job there, my experience, just the ideas of if am I a dangerous person, or that I enjoy killing people, or that I whatever they think. That's the only analogy I can draw.
Well, I can think of something else that's similar. that veterans over a history have experienced, which is there will be some sort of like outrage over the treatment of veterans. And then there will be I would say like a symbolic effort. You know what I mean? Where people are like, oh, so, okay, let's all clap for veterans at every single sporting event, but let's not actually fund the VA in a way that will help these veterans recover from all of the stuff that they've seen. It's that kind of, it's that same thing of like, well, if you see it and you know it's an issue and you care, like you say you're caring, why is there not really any like solid action? I remember hearing years ago about all of these guys like fighting that were over, being sent over like yourself, but were being, I guess maybe infantry guys. And I mean, I know nothing about the military, but they were like low ranking guys that from a lot of them were from poorer backgrounds, and that they were being paid so little that like their spouses and whatever were also on welfare. And I mean, I'm a super liberal, progressive, anti-war person, but I'm not anti-veteran or I'm just like, I would prefer us to have policies where we don't get involved in wars and send people off to die, but I don't hold the actual individual people in the military. I mean, plus we do need some of that, right? And I'm so grateful it's not me doing it, but I was appalled by that because it's like, wait a minute. On the one hand, we're supposed to be like, you have to be pro-military if you want to be a patriot, but we're not even paying these people enough to feed their own children. What are we doing? What is that? And that's the same kind of stuff we see in African American, like with our struggle. It's like, we'll see symbolic efforts that don't net, actual positive results for us that are hurting. And so,
token gestures like thoughts and prayers. We send our thoughts and prayers like
to all of the families at blah, blah, blah. But we're,
if I hear that one more time, I almost want to like, fuck your thoughts. And
right.
prayers.
No, exactly. It's like, it's hollow and meaningless. And the good thing about what's happening right now is we're seeing people come out and say that's no longer good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I believe and I hope that it won't just be for like Black Lives. Obviously Black Lives Matter are important to me, but for other groups that find themselves, in a similar situation, whether it's women, military, other race, whatever it is, it's like, we will let's stop the hollow, just the thoughts and quote unquote thoughts and prayers, and let's take actual meaningful action.
Right. Take the thoughts and prayers and build on those to make policy and tangible change in the world. I think there can be a healthy dose of giving the benefit of the doubt to those populations who are experiencing it and listening. Here's what I understand about my own experience, and this is I think the last thing I'll say about me being a veteran, but I understand that nobody can understand what it's like to go to war unless they've been there. And that helps me understand that I can't understand what it's like to be Black.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, so I'm going to give someone the benefit of the doubt, just like I hope they would give me the benefit of the doubt and listen if that's something that we need to talk about.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. And that's definitely, I would say that's sort of my experience in the reverse. It's like, I have no idea what it would be like to be over there in urban combat. Like I literally cannot fathom it, but I do understand, the reverse. I understand what it's like to be Black and that other people can't understand that. And so, yeah, just a little benefit of the doubt would go a long way.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. And then just starting with the fact that I might not know something. So what if I listen first? We're always going to make a judgment. That's what we do. That's what our brains are for, to make judgments. But what if we expand the data that we get by listening and doing a little more observation before we make our conclusions and act?
I mean, I'm down for that.
Yeah. We'll talk about discomfort. One thing we experienced last week was the discomfort maybe of people in our own triathlon community with this conversation.
Yeah.
What was that? Can I ask you, what was that like for you when you noticed that after we posted in Pathetic Triathletes group that our post got taken down of our last episode?
Yeah. When they've let other episodes stand. So
yeah. So it was something. So the backstory for people who don't know was I posted our episode, which was entitled Why We Say Black Lives Matter. And we posted in Pathetic Triathletes group, which if you're not familiar with it, it's a very large community of triathletes. And it's a lighthearted, sometimes joking about how we take ourselves too seriously. So very much in line with our podcast. And posting that episode, I got a message, your post has been taken down by an admin. And I got the message that says, hey, I support BLM, but we want to stay clear from politics. So your post has been deleted.
Mm-hmm. Well, at first I was like, equality for all human beings is not a political issue. It should not be a political issue. I mean, are there two sides to that issue?
Right.
Equality. What are the two sides? Equality, not equality? How is that a political issue? It shouldn't be, even if you are a conservative, fiscally conservative person, or you have family values, or, you're very religious, whatever thing makes you think that you are conservative politically, how is equality not part of that?
Even conservative people like Sean Hannity and like the evangelicals like Pat Robertson condemned these things. So it's not like this is just a leftist issue, right, and it's something on like someone's platform. I mean, so yeah.
So I was kind of disappointed because I mean I feel like I was like, oh, I want as a African American in triathlon, I want to see my community support me, and I want to see all these great people that I know are part of the triathlon community, embrace. I'm not asking triathletes to, pour out into the streets and I'm just saying at least just embrace the fact that, it's a good thing to want equality, and so it was disappointing to see, but what was heartening was to see all the people's response that gave them crap for taking it down. That's great.
Wasn't that cool?
Yeah.
That was probably the most engagement I've ever had at a post on Facebook. When I put that in there, I said, I was hoping for better, and I put the picture of the admin's message where we got our post in Pathetic Triathletes deleted. And so many people were like, WTF, what is this? What is this group about? And then people who were familiar with the group said, why would they do that? That makes no sense. And we had a bunch of people repost it and say, thank you to Lindsay and Mike for putting this up. I really like this episode, and it's an important issue. And they got theirs taken. There's still one floating out there. There's still one floating out there. But there was a bunch that got posted and deleted.
Great. I mean, hey, it's their page. They're allowed to delete whatever they want. But I would say to them, I get that you don't want politics on your page, but I would challenge you as the admins of Pathetic Triathletes to reconsider whether or not equality for all humans is actually a political issue or not. I mean, even IRONMAN has acknowledged that it's worth it's good for the sport to make an effort to bring other, more diversity into the sport. I mean, so why this page can't see that too is kind of beyond me. And speaking of which, I'm sure most people who are listening to this already know, but IRONMAN is going to be releasing a new initiative, through IRONMAN Foundation called Race for Change, and that's about bringing diversity into the sport of triathlon, and they've acknowledged that less than 1% of triathletes racing Ironman are Black, and I can attest to the fact that is true.
Yes. I can attest to it as well. Just noticing every time I see a Black person on the course, being like,
Whoa.
Awesome. Wow.
Like literally at the swim start, I'm in a literal sea of white faces, right? And I don't feel particularly, in talking about discomfort, it's like I am mixed race and I grew up in a mostly white environment. So I'm so used to it now that I don't feel discomfort that I can acknowledge, at least consciously. But when I see another Black athlete on the course, I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like seeing a unicorn. It's like, oh my God, I'm not alone. And so I guess there is a certain level of discomfort. I just don't really acknowledge it consciously. And that happened at Ironman Santa Rosa. It's like on the race course, on the run, I saw a Black guy. And we were just like, what up?
Yeah.
We were both in the back and both struggling. And it was like, yep. I was cracking up some friends earlier because this guy and I were both like, we have fast twitch muscles. We're really meant for sprinting. This whole like long 15-hour day is kind of a white thing, but we're doing it. It was just, it was awesome. So
I love that.
There's also, I'm on Women for Tri. I'm a Women for Tri ambassador, and I had the funniest thing happen. I guess for some reason, so there's two Facebook pages for Women for Tri. There's the Women for Tri page, which is for everybody, and then there's Women for Tri ambassadors page, which is for those of us who are ambassadors this year, which is a weird thing because there's not really races happening, so we're kind of ambassadors. But anyway, on the ambassador page, I saw a few posts saying like, I just can't with the Women for Tri right now. That like apparently was popping off last week with like posts, I guess, for and against not against Black Lives Matter, but like, we shouldn't be posting about it. Or we shouldn't be posting about this, or we should, or back and forth, or, what's the message coming from Ironman before they released that thing about the Race for Change initiative. And I realized somehow I'm no longer on that page. Like I was originally a part of that page, but I only see the ambassador stuff. So I missed all of the back and forth and I kind of like, so I put some on the ambassador page. I should have like, maybe that's like the universe doing me a solid. Like, so I didn't have to be angry at a bunch of ignorant ass triathletes saying like all lives matter or we only need to talk about triathlon or whatever they're saying. Like, I just, I missed it. And I was like, oh, hey, whatever. I'm all good with that.
That's the thing that I don't know if we talked about. We might have talked about, we did a little bit, Black Lives Matter. And then the responses why things like all lives matter is not a great thing to say. The same, I saw another analogy that said, when the Twin Towers fell, a bunch of people were saying we stand with New York. We're all New Yorkers today. And then when the Boston Marathon got bombed, everybody was okay with people saying Boston strong, instead of replying, well, all cities are strong.
Right. Yeah. No city wants to get bombed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But right. That's a great analogy because we do. And so I just heard this morning, this is the kind of thing that makes me want to just bury my head in the sand. I heard this morning that Amazon is trying to suspend the use of their facial recognition software because it's being used by police forces. And it turns out it can't recognize all types of people as well. So it doesn't recognize women as well as men, but it doesn't recognize dark skin. It can't tell the difference between dark skinned people as well either. So basically the only people that can get recognized easily and correctly are white males. Shocker.
I can get recognized.
And it's like, they know that this is the case, and Amazon apparently has been defending their, software till now, but it's like, why would you defend that? It doesn't work. If it only recognizes consistently white males, that's not software that works. And the fact that it's out there and police forces are like, yeah, let's use it. That's the kind of thing, like, it does make me feel uncomfortable. and afraid, because if they can't recognize my black face from some other black face, or my female face from some other female face that they're looking for as a, a felon or whatever, like if they take action based on that, what's going to happen? And I guess one of the things that's coming out about this time that's good is like, so Amazon's pulling their stuff, which is great. But more and more things keep seeping out that let us know like it's even deeper than I thought. You know what I mean? As an African American, it's like,
interesting.
Oh, there's even more shit. Like they're using facial recognition software they know doesn't recognize dark skin very well. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like, how are we going to move forward when there's just, it's like every little thing that we look at has this glaze of bias over it right now. That's what's making me feel particularly uneasy right now today.
Yeah. Well, the rate that 2020 is going.
Oh my God.
If we do have an alien invasion, I think that might unite all of us.
I know. We need one of those, like, what was that one with Independence Day? We need like an Independence Day where Bill Pullman's going to like bring us all together.
Yeah, exactly. And they have that slow, like, wide pan shot of everyone just looking at each other, nodding, and be like, we're going to fuck these aliens up.
That's right.
We're going to fuck those aliens up.
Oh my gosh. That's so true. Bring it on, aliens. Let's go.
Yeah, I'd say we're ready. I've even seen the memes where they show an alien talking to another one and be like, I think we're up next. Fuck, I'm nervous.
Although I have to say, if they actually make it here, we're so screwed, because we've only made it like to the moon. You know what I mean? If they've made it here from some other like galaxy, it's like,
True. Well, we'll figure out a way.
Yeah, racial equality and good old love will conquer will conquer all. And Will Smith.
And Will Smith. We always need Will Smith.
Or I guess now there's like new Will Smith's old. Who's the new like dude? Michael B. Jordan or one of those newer young.
Oh yeah. I don't. Well, we got Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Aquaman, right? He'll be in the mix.
And The Rock.
Oh, The Rock. Yeah, I think the Rock will be solid cultural reference until he's like 80.
Right. Oh my gosh. All right. So on a lighter note, because I don't want to end on more, racial strife, since we aren't actually a political / equality / podcast. I will say, and I was thinking about this the other day, I've learned a lot from doing triathlon about exactly what you're talking about at the top of the show, about like facing discomfort and being like, oh, this is super uncomfortable and it's okay. And I'm just going to keep doing it. And then eventually it will be it'll be fine. It'll either end, or it'll be, it'll be comfortable or whatever. I'll adapt. And that's, I've had that, we've talked about this before, like at starting swim, going to masters for the first time, where you're like, this is so awkward. Like these people know what they're doing and I can, but I've been able to use that in other, like facets of my life, like what I've learned in triathlon, I've been able to use, in other areas of my life where, the discomfort isn't stemming from like a physical thing, but it's like, well, I was afraid when I did this Ironman, but I did it and it was okay. So I can therefore do this other thing. I can do this talk at work, or I can do, and it'll be okay. And like an elevated heart rate doesn't mean I have to like fight or flight necessarily.
Right. I like that. And as my job as a therapist, it's exactly what I do with people almost all day, is help them face discomfort and say, okay, what can I do? Instead of waiting for the feeling to go away to take an action, can I take an action despite the feeling? Take an action that's in line with my values. Right. We see this with all kinds of helping groups, AA or the recovery groups. Okay, just because I feel uncomfortable, can I do something other than take a drink, which I have learned is not good for me? Right. For those who have an allergy to alcohol.
Yes. And for those who've listened before, know Mike and I both are highly allergic.
I am more allergic to alcohol than I am allergic to the sun.
Which is saying a lot.
To the sun. Yeah. I sneeze every time I go outside. I see the sun.
That's true. And I was just thinking in the program, 12 steps I've learned, a saying, which I have to, remind myself a lot, which is feelings aren't facts. And so just because I feel a certain way doesn't mean that that's the reality of the situation, that that's a factual thing. Like, and that can help when I'm feeling that knee-jerk reaction to what someone else is doing. It's like, feelings are not facts. Just because I feel angry at that person doesn't mean that they're a piece of shit necessarily. I mean, they might be, but they also might have like a reason why, or maybe they just are ignorant to something. And I think, coming at anything from that perspective, coming at, right now, my struggle with triathlon is the aging thing. And like, it's been like a year and a half now. I've been talking about, knees aren't cooperating, and then they're cooperating, but then the lower tendon hurts and the Achilles tendon, or like, you know what I mean? It's like this moving target, and that's aging. And I don't want to age. You know what I mean? I want to stay young with well lubricated joints that just allow me to go do whatever I want, whenever I want. And that's not the case anymore. And so, but that can leave me feeling like I can feel afraid, even like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to be able to run trails again? What's going to happen? It's like, maybe I can, maybe I can't. But just because I feel afraid doesn't mean I'm not going to have a good life, or I'm not going to enjoy life, or that I'm going to weigh 1,000 pounds.
That's a great point.
It's like, do something else. You know what I mean? Like, there's other ways to it's like, well, I'll try writing. Look, writing's working for me right now. And so I can write, it's just that acknowledgement that what I feel isn't necessarily reality. And I don't have to let it inform my behavior.
Can you imagine what it would be like if you verbalized those thoughts you had about people? Hey, you might not be a piece of shit, but I'm just really angry right now.
Right. Oh, I know.
But you might be a piece of shit. I'm not sure yet.
But I'm gonna pause and wait for you to have a discussion with me so that I can determine whether or not you're a piece of shit.
Exactly.
And that's not what we do as humans. We immediately, it's like, I'm going to put you in the piece of crap bucket and then I'm done. Right?
Yeah. Cancel. You are done forever. You've been banished. You've done something to offend me.
Right.
Whether or not that offense was real or directed at me or even happened in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, I would have never thought, hey, you're going to have a podcast with like a former Marine dude like that, and it's going to be fine. I never would have thought that. Not that I had anything against Marine, but it's like, I didn't think we were even in the same, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing.
Right. What would we talk about and have in common?
Right. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, it's like, with the more we talk, the more it's like, well, we're just people.
Yeah.
And we kind of keep learning we've learned the same lessons, but for different reasons. Like we were just talking about earlier about the veteran versus the black thing. It's like, we've both had experiences that other people haven't had, that can't relate to us, that changed the way we view the world. But in a similar way, like the end result was a similar view of the world in terms of like, maybe I don't know everything, maybe this person's going through, but from a different, for different reasons. And that's it's amazing to see,
Yeah, that's something that Viktor Frankl, who I reference a lot, mentioned. And I'll even pull it up. I have a quote of his. He said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And for those of you who don't know, Viktor Frankl wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, and he survived Auschwitz, the concentration camp, and went on to realize that as humans, our primary driver, what moves us is not the pursuit of pleasure, but the pursuit of meaning. And he realized early on in his journey there, and as he went on to become a psychologist, that finding purpose involves discomfort and involves things that are unknown and scary. And so that's not necessarily bad. In fact, a lot of times it's good.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And I absolutely agree. And I love that quote. And I think even just tying it back into terms of triathlon and what's going on now with the shelter in place and coronavirus and everything is, if you have a purpose for racing, if you have a really strong why that's outside of yourself, or just, like I want to win everything, I feel like those of us who have a why are finding it easier to navigate the shelter in place and the cancellation of all of our races, because the race isn't the end game. You know what I mean? And so, okay, well, I mean, yes, we love to do it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, of course, and I want to go to Kona and watch Mike race and for a Gold Star family. I'm not saying that, but that's not the end game, is not just the race. And so you can find other ways to still engage with your why if you have one. And for triathletes who don't have any why other than just like, I want to go and be there and go as fast as I can, and that's it, and I don't have any other motivation behind it, right now they're SOL because everything's canceled and they feel canceled
and pools are closed.
Yep.
And so it's most people are losing fitness.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to bring that up, most people are losing fitness right now, or not. They're not gaining as much as they would were things open. And that's just, some people might be, but man, they're
few and far between, man.
Yeah, few and far between. And you're right, that's applied to me too, because I've lost a lot of fitness,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not as lean as I'd like to be. But when I come back to my why, I say, okay, it doesn't matter as much, because I know my why involves healing for myself, and just as importantly, healing for other people that I'm racing for. So that's still going to take place, whether I'm 10 pounds heavier, 20 pounds heavier or not.
Right.
As long as I can get my ass across that finish line. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, so, and I'm going to participate in the upcoming, initiative Race for Change. And yes, I'm so excited. I mean, being able to be a, hopefully, encourage other Black athletes to come into the sport and really reap all the benefits that I've reaped from participating in triathlon in this community. It's going to be like that's an amazing why. And so whenever it happens and whenever we open back up and the initiative's in full swing, it's like, that's more important to me than that. Well, we all know I don't really give a crap about my time. I mean, I look at people faster time and go, oh, that'd be cool, but I ain't really going to do it. So whatever. But it's like, I just want to get across the finish line and inspire some people and inspire my kids and, maintain my own health, so it's okay. Anyway.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. I told you offline, outside of the podcast, that I'm so excited for you to be part of Race for Change.
Yay.
And to see what comes of it. I mean, it just came on the scene last week. I think like the day, maybe the day after we recorded our last podcast, it all just got announced and became the new thing that was brought into the consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. I will say one quick thing that was funny. On the the Women for Tri ambassador, they gave IRONMAN some feedback because IRONMAN had posted if you want to do Race for Change and you want to be part of the initiative, you can fill out here in the form. And they had a picture, and initially the picture was all white people. And they were like,
Race for Change or Race for Change?
You might want to get a different color in there.
Yeah, exactly. I imagine like the panic on the webmaster's face, and like, okay, all we need is a photo of a Black person doing triathlon.
Can't find one.
Like, oh shit, where?
IRONMAN, you can hit me up or just go through your own photo gallery way towards the end of the day and you'll find one.
Yeah, just use Amazon software and find the ones it doesn't recognize. Right?
100%. That's amazing. Should we end on that note?
I think so. That's good. All right, all you dongles.
Yes.
We'll check back with you.
Oh, we do. Did we announce that last week? I don't think we did. That was, we have an official name for So Reese, one of our listeners, super fan, referred to himself as a dongle last week on our page, and I thought that was brilliant. So we have officially named all of our listeners Dongle. And if you don't know why, go back in the archives and listen to our episode on dongles.
Dongles and afros, right?
Yep. Dongles and afros. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Alrighty, that concludes today's episode of the Age Groupies Podcast with me, Lindsay Hiken, and my co-host, Mike Ergo. We really hope you enjoyed it. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us at agegroupies@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, as this really helps us get more exposure while we try to grow this little venture. And of course, if you have friends you think might like the show, please be sure to share it with them. But for now, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.